Okay, we are up and live again. I'm going to transition back to us. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Colton. This is Juliana Reshik, Board President. For those of you that are watching via streaming, we had some technical difficulties, so we're just returning from a short break. And Chelsea, we want to thank you for your presentation and all the work that you do. So thanks very much. And I wanted to open it up to the board. Is there any questions or anything for Chelsea? Okay, thank you very much, Chelsea. So moving on to our committee reports. I'm going through all my pictures here. Patsy, you want to start us off with the Education Committee?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Education Committee met yesterday. Business as usual for us. It was a great meeting. Several site visits, as Janelle has already mentioned. With that, several initial applications for new nursing programs that will require a few more school visits for our group in spring of 2022. Worked through several major curriculum change requests. And we'll have some motions with that here in just a minute. Carol also mentioned completion of the work of the revised regulations. Those are for undergrad nursing education, and with that success, we will now begin working with the graduate nursing education regulations and also the mental health technician to mirror the approved changes that we have just completed. That's pretty much sums up the report, and we have several motions to bring to the board today, and I think Michelle has those. She's going to read those for us.
I do.
So I'll let you go ahead and start.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report for Garden City Community College ADN program with a recommendation for reapproval of the ADN program for a time period consistent with national accreditation.
Is there a board member that would like to make that motion?
This is Adri Goldsmith. I make that motion.
Okay.
Giovanni Gonell, second.
Thank you, Giovanni. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions?
And I will abstain from that vote. Thank you.
Motion carries. Michelle, do you have any additional motions for us?
Yes. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report with recommendations for Kansas City, Kansas Community College ADN program and reapproving the program for a time period of national accreditation.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Andrea. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? Sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Motion number 3. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report with recommendations for Kansas City, Kansas Community College PN program, reapproving the PN program for a time period of 5 years.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca, board member. I second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report with recommendations for Washburn Institute of Technology PN program and reapproving the PN program for a time period of 5 years.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
Adri Board Member, I second.
Thank you, Adri. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report as amended for Heston College BSN program, adding a recommendation to clarify language regarding KSA 65-1120, possible licensure denial, in program materials available prior to admission and reapproving the program for a time period of national accreditation.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca, board member. I second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
There a board member who would like to make the following motion. It was moved to accept the site visit report for Satellite Campus at Geary County for Cloud County Community College ADN program and to approve the addition of the nursing program at Satellite Campus with the admission of 18 students for spring of 2022 and annually thereafter. Follow-up visit for Satellite Campus to occur in conjunction with the next reapproval visit for the current Cloud County Community College nursing program in spring of 2027.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Andrea, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report for Seward County Community College bi-level ADN program with an addition recommendation to clarify that the program remains in conditional approval and grant continuing conditional approval for the ADN program with next site visit to occur with national accreditation.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
Giovanni Gonale, second.
Thank you, Giovanni. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Motion number 8. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the correction to the annual reapprovals for nursing programs done at the September board meeting and include Fort Scott Community College under the fully approved ADN programs and not under the conditional approval programs.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca, board member. I second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the initial nursing program application by Mid-America Nursing and Allied Health Institute with a request to offer a PN program with a site visit to occur before approval is given to admit students.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Adri, board member. I second.
Thank you, Adri. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the request from WSU Tech to offer an ADN program to the current location with a site visit to occur before approval is given to admit students.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Do we have a second?
This is Andrea Watson. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? Say
Yes.
no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the request from North Central Kansas Tech Beloit to offer an ADN program at their current location with a site visit to occur before approval is given to admit students.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca. I'll second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Washburn University BSN program to change delivery method for course NU 318 Professional Transformation from in-person to online.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Do we have a second?
Andrea Watson, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Baker University BSN program to change the credit hours from NU 323 LPN Bridge course from 3.5 to 4.0 credit hours.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Butler Community College ADN program to add an additional 16 nursing seats, 8 each academic year, in a partnership with Collie County Community College. The additional 8 students per academic year would be from Collie County Community College and would be taught by Butler Community College nursing faculty at the Collie County Community College Allied Health Campus in Winfield.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Andrea Watson, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Third board member who would like to make the following motion. It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Emporia State University BSN program to change the following courses in the curriculum. Eliminate CW 152 Intro to Health Careers course. Decrease NU 311 Fundamentals Nurse Practicum from 3 to 2 credits. Increase NU 382 Geriatric Nursing from 1 to 2 credits. Eliminate NU 379 Decision Making in Nursing 1 and add this credit to NU 431 Decision Making in Nursing 2, 1 credit hour, to make one course of 2 credit hours. Title change request per minor curriculum change for NU 431 to be just decision making in nursing. Increase NU 392 end of life care from 1 to 2 credits. Decrease NU 429 maternal newborn nursing practicum from 3 to 2 credit hours. The changes will not change overall credit hours of 120 credit hours or nursing program credit hours of 60 credit hours for the nursing degree.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
Giovanni Gone, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Giovanni. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Kansas City, Kansas Community College ADN program to reformat the delivery method of 4 nursing courses: NURS 106 Farm 1, NURS 108 Farm 2, NURS 193 Health Assessment, and NURS 245 Nursing Management of Care Concepts, from face-to-face only to face-to-face or online for all didactic portions. All lab and clinical will remain face-to-face.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
Adri, board member, I second.
Thank you, Adri. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
There a board member who would like to make the following motion. It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Kansas City, Kansas Community College PN program to reformat the delivery method of 4 nursing courses: KSPN 124 Maternal Child Nursing, 2 credit hours; KSBN 130 Mental Health, 2 credit hours; KSPN 131 Care of Aging, 2 credit hours, and KSPN 132 Leadership Roles and Issues, 2 credit hours, from face-to-face only to face-to-face or online for all didactic portions. All lab and clinical will remain face-to-face.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
There a board member who would like to make the following motion. It was moved to approve the major curriculum change request from Fort Hays State University BSN to DNP program to change the curriculum courses and restructure clinical preceptorship courses, but not change the overall credit or clock hours for the program.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is Andrea Watson, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the petition for permission to test or retest summary for September 1st, 2021 through November 16th, 2021, which includes Hidegad, Cheyenne Trout, Jara Schumacher, Jordan Seek, Royal Vilina, Taylor Abel, Audrey Shipman, and Tiffany Barboza.
This is Patsy, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there a second?
This is
This is
Rebecca.
Andrea Watson. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I second.
Thanks, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Is that,
Madam President, that concludes our report, and Michelle is really glad. Thank you.
thank you very much, Patsy. Okay, we'll move on to Investigative Committee. Rebecca?
Madam Chair, thank you. Linda Davies gave a summary and a report. We don't have any additional updates to that other than, and we have no action items today either.
Very good. Thank you very much. Rebecca, I might hand the meeting over to you while after I give the C&E update.
Okay.
I do think you gave a very thorough update, but we do have some motions to make. So I'm going to ask Michelle or Jill. I'm not sure who has them.
This is Michelle, Education Secretary. I have them.
Okay, go ahead, Jill. Michelle.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to adopt the list of national organizations from C&E providers.
This is Juliana, and I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Giovanni Gonet, board member. I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the initial application for our Allied Health Instructors Academy.
This is Juliana. I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
This is Gwen. I'll second.
Thank you, Gwen. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the initial application for DSD Whole Body Wellness.
This is Juliana, and I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Adri, board member, I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the initial application for HCA Mid-America Clinical Education.
This is Juliana, and I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Adri, board member, I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the initial application for nursing CEUs with Lauren. It was moved to amend the motion to approve the initial application for nursing CEUs with Lauren pending clarification in their policy to include awarding fractions of hours beyond 1 credit hour.
This is Juliana, and I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
This is Andrea Watson, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? None? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the initial application for Victorious Mentoring LLC pending the addition of their address to the completion certificate and clarification in their policy to include awarding fractions of hours beyond 1 contact hour.
This is Juliana. I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Adri, board member, I second.
Thank you, Audrey. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
That is all the motions that I have.
That concludes my report. Right. Thank you, Rebecca. Moving on to the Aprn Committee. Patsy?
I have a short report. It was a not very long meeting. A couple things that we had to report was Shannon Gregg will be our representative for the prescription monitoring program, and she will attend her first meeting in January, so we'll have a report coming back to the meeting in March. Report from Amy Seipel for the APRN meeting for CAPN with some legislative updates, and no report from CMNI, and we'll follow up with that in March. And Jill, help me remember, did we have a motion?
We had no motions to bring before the board.
So that concludes my report, and let's have some questions.
Thank you very much, Patsy. Rebecca, Practice Committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're having discussions about increasing the volume of questions relating to practice, APRN and RN and LPN scope of practice. We continue to move and explore on those issues that are coming in. I also do have one motion to present today, and I think Megan is reading them. Is that correct?
This is Megan, and yes, I
There
have
she
them.
is. There she is. Okay, Megan.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to revoke KAR 60-3-102 and KAR 60-7-102.
This is Adri, board member, I move.
Thank you, Adri. Is there a second?
This is Melissa Orpeza. I'll second.
Thank you, Melissa. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Rebecca. Okay, and then Finance Committee, we did have a good meeting this morning. I think Carol covered many of the updates in her report. I will share that we're kind of in some transition times. We'd seen a reduction in the number of licensees, which obviously reduces our revenues. But we've seen an uptick in licensee. The reduction was from the going to a multi-state license, but we've seen an increase in licensees from the pandemic. So we're kind of in a position where we're not sure what the future will bring. So our fee fund looks very strong right now, but we are just going to keep watching it and see where we progress and what the environment brings to us over the next few months to a year. So it was a good committee meeting and good reports. So thank you very much. It's nice to have financial stability. So moving on to our unfinished business. Carol, do you want to give us an update on the temporary and permanent regulation revisions?
Yes, I certainly will. This is Carol Moreland, Administrator, and you have in your board packet under unfinished business, you have the regulation 60-3-101 and 60-11-103. These are from House Bill 2066 from the last legislative session, and I have been working on these ever since then. So what there is there's a temp and a permanent of each. This House Bill 2066, to put a short version of it, it's expedited licensing for military. And so we had to make a few changes to these two regulations. Anytime we make changes to regulations, it seems like when they go through the process, there's other things that kind of get cleaned up in them. So you'll kind of see that as you look through here. But then there's some that are truly in here probably because of the bill. I would love to tell you that what you have in here is the final, but unfortunately it's not. This was what went to what came back from the AG's office. So just again, to remind you of the process, when you make regulation revisions, they start through Division of Budget. They have to be stamped by Division of Budget. And then they go to Department of Administration. Division of Budget basically looks at the fiscal impact. And a lot of times, most of our regulations don't have huge financial implications for our agency. Then they go to Department of Administration. Department of Administration looks at the format, they look at the grammar, and it seems like there's usually some of that needs to be cleaned up as it goes through there. And then once they're satisfied with it, they stamp, and then it goes to the Attorney General's office, and their review is for legality. And again, sometimes there's some cleanup because as you'll notice, some of these revisions haven't been done for a while. And so there might be some cleanup from that, and then legality because of the new bill, just kind of to explain that. So they made it through Division of Budget after they went through the Attorney General, and then they went to Department of Administration, and there were a fair amount of changes. And I thought there probably would be, because some of the changes the Attorney General's office wanted, I figured probably would not get through the Department of Administration. And that's what happened. And so I've been working with Department of Administration, and I believe I have everything so that they're okay with it. But what it has to do is start back through Division of Budget. So right now, that's where they're sitting, is Division of Budget. So what you have in front of you is not the most recent. And I could put 3 copies of this a day in here, probably, and you still wouldn't have the most current one. This is a lot of time has went in on this one, just in the last few weeks trying to get this through. Because I actually started this on June 1st, just kind of let you know how long the process takes. So, most of the changes that have been made have been grammar changes and format changes, because Department of Administration has very strict format of how regulations can be. So once we get Division of Budget stamp, I don't think we'll have any problems with the Department of Administration, because she's already looked at these and that, and then it will go to the Attorney General's office again, second time around for them. And some of the changes that are in there will be different than kind of what they wanted because of the Department of Administration. So I'm not sure how well we're going to make it through the Attorney General's office, but I will continue to work on these. There's temp and permanent. The temp, we don't really have to do the public hearing and stuff, quite the same format that we do for the permanent. So that's why we were trying to get the temp through so that we could actually get some temporary regulations that are good for 180 days. But we're putting the temp and the permanent through at exactly the same time, knowing that by the time we do public hearing and all of that, that's probably 3 months, I'm just guessing. So that would be like 90 days at least out of the 180. So I'm still working on it. I apologize that you do not have the most current, but like I said, I could change it 3 times in one day. And so I'm not sure that I would ever have the most current one, even in an on-site packet. So just know that I'm continuing to work on that. And would it be possible to kind of change the order that we do the unfinished business? Adrian is doing his report out at National Council. Him and I are trying to communicate where he's at because he actually needs to be here for the discussion of a few things on the agenda. So would that be possible? Is that acceptable?
Yes, that's acceptable. Yes.
Okay, that way we can kind of keep moving ahead here.
Absolutely.
I'll skip down to number 3, the fiscal year 21 annual report draft. That is the one that's in your on-site packet. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. This is coming to you for a consensus agreement that it's how you want it, and then we will get it on our website. I will just let you know, I know one change that we made because you remember that we had the fiscal year 20 come across with this new format, of which I've received a lot of compliments on the new format for this and the strategic plan. So thank you for allowing us to do that. We really appreciate it. But we did the licensees by county just a little bit different this time. And that actually starts on page 10 of this annual report, because we received some feedback from the last one that was a little bit hard to track and stuff. So Colton did some work on this. And I think how we have it in here is greatly improved. But there are some people within the state that like to look at these licensees by county because they can kind of see where things are located and stuff like that. So we felt it was important to leave that information in. We just tried to put it in a little bit different format than it was before. But other than that, it has most of the same information, just updated numbers and everything like that. So if you have questions or anything that you want changed or anything about it.
I really did like the format as well. It's very easy to read and I felt like it was very informative. So
It looks so nice. It's a very nice document.
Mm-hmm. So is it okay then if we put it on our website? Is it ready to go then?
yes, do we need a motion for that?
Just kind of consensus. would be
Direction.
fine.
Okay. Anybody have any concerns? I'm seeing head nods and approval, so no concerns. Okay.
All right, we'll do that. We'll get that on there. And then I kind of updated you a little bit on this, the undergrad education regulations update. Again, that should come out in the Kansas Register tomorrow. And that's where the adopted ones come out first. So we really can't put them on our website or do any of that until they're published in the Kansas Register. But they do have an effective date of January 1st. And it was talked about in the Education Committee yesterday. These are 10 regulations, so that there's quite a lot to absorb here for like the program administrators and stuff like that. And unless you go through these word by word, you're not going to be able to pick up what the changes are probably, because the strike through and the underline are all now gone. So what I offered to do, and the Education Committee was fine with this, is I'm going to take those and I'm just going to For the program administrators, I'm just going to highlight the changes so that they will know, because some of those changes they will have to incorporate. So it's very important that they know what those changes are. And this will save them a little bit of time of looking through word by word those 10 regulations, which could take a little while. So that will be happening and that should help them. But again, once January 1st is here, we will update the Nurse Practice Act on our website that will have these new ones in. And we'll also post them on our website just so that everyone's aware of that. We'll probably put something in the next newsletter about them. I don't know if we'll put all 10 regulation changes in there. That would take quite a little bit of space, but we'll kind of do an overview or something. And then, of course, it will be in the Department of Education renewal application that is going to be on. And just let me check real fast here. Okay, Adrian is on his way back up to where he needs to meet us. Do you want to maybe talk about the format for the 2022 committee and board meetings? Would you want to jump ahead to that one?
That sounds great. Let's do that. Yes. So, Carol, do you want to kick us off on this conversation? I know that there's been, whether we do a virtual or a in-person meeting is what we've been talking about. And Carol has some things to share with us.
Yeah, this is Carol again. As I shared, I don't know what the guidance is going to be from the governor's office for January 1st on. I can just tell you that the numbers have went up in Shawnee County as they have in the whole state. And there's more of burden on the hospitals right now because of the increased hospitalizations. And I think they kind of expect that to probably happen and even more with the new variant and all of that. So, but what Jill and I have been working on is brainstorming on where we could have this, because again, those of you that have met with us in person, it's usually in the Landon building on the 5th floor. There is no way we can do the meetings on Tuesday or Wednesday in the Landon building and have them open to the public. There's not enough room to social distance. And we could do the investigative committee in the Landon building without a problem. There's plenty of room for that. But all day Tuesday and Wednesday would have to be elsewhere. So Jill and I have been calling numerous places in Topeka, and I know this seems a little hard to realize, but there's a lot of places that we're not able to. Some places have changed how they're doing stuff because of the pandemic, because there's not events like there used to be. So they're not actually doing event space and stuff like that, like they've done in the past because they were losing so much money on it, which makes sense. There's some places in Topeka, but they would be rather pricey for 2-day meeting. And then it might be that they would have another meeting in there on Tuesday night. So we would have to take all of our stuff, move it out, bring it back on Wednesday. So there's just a little bit more involved there. The library would have been great, except you can't get into it to 9 o'clock. And so that kind of made it a problem on both Tuesday and Wednesday getting in there. So we are continuing to look, but so far we've not found a place that's going to be big enough. And like I said, we will continue to look, but I'm just not sure what the guidance is going to be about March's meeting.
So I think we need to make some decisions about whether we're having a virtual, or this is Juliana, board president, or a in-person meeting. And we don't, Adrian hasn't given this update yet, but we do have our strategic retreat planned for February, which we know would be in person. So if the board is supportive, I'd like to recommend that we have our March meeting virtually. And knowing that we will have just met in person in February, and then potentially anticipate trying to have an in-person meeting this summer. I don't know what others think or feel about that.
This is Andrea Watson, board member. I would agree. I mean, it's difficult to see people spending so much time trying to find space and locations and work things out, and then we end up being remote. I know people are busy doing other things. So I think that's just sort of the reality of where we remain in terms of trying to find something large enough for this group to plan in that direction. I would support virtual in March, and hopefully, as we keep hoping, we can plan something in person at the next meeting.
This is Patsy, board member. I also agree with that. And we're trying really hard, I understand, continuing to work on a February retreat, which we would be face-to-face, which I think we're all starving for, to be with each other and see each other, learn some of the new board members, and they can meet us in person. But it looks like the handwriting's kind of on the wall. We probably should make this virtual. I know the committees were also waiting to hear what the board would do today, so we can get that to them as soon as the decision's made.
Okay. So I think, is this direction, Carol, or is this, I think our direct.
Yeah, that's great. We will continue to try to find a place for June and reserve that when we find a place, and that way we'll have it. Depending on, hopefully in June, we can all get back together and things will look much better. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah, I believe Adrian is back with us now. So Adrian, we kind of jumped ahead to a few things here. So we could go back up to CE broker update, if that would be okay with all of you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing some nodding. All right, this is Carol, and at the last meeting, there was a presentation about CE broker, and you all wanted Adrian and I to try to find out a little bit more information because there had been maybe a few concerns about this in the past, and we just kind of wanted to see if any of that had changed or anything like that. So Adrian has kind of been working from the security part of it. I have been working with our legal counsel to look at agreements and stuff like that and see if those would be acceptable. And I can report back on the agreement. Charles looked at both the memorandum of understanding and the agreement because CE broker has both. And he felt that the agreement would be the better way to go. There was really no surprises in the agreement that you didn't hear in the CE broker presentation. So that part of it, I believe we would be okay to go. I don't know if Adrian wants to talk about the security part.
Yes, thank you. Members of the board, Madam President. I am happy to report that I thought the CE broker did a magnificent job providing us with all the information. Excuse me, we had a long laundry list of criteria that we wanted to see met. And I worked in conjunction with the non-cabinet agency information security officer, and we surveyed the information that they provided back, and we had some follow-up questions. And I will say that they did a magnificent job getting us a lot of detailed information, and they did so timely. So as somebody who's trying to juggle multiple things, that was very much appreciated. And I thought they did a great job.
Yeah. This is Carol again, and I will just say CE broker has been extremely responsive to any questions that we have sent them. They're very, I think, anxious to work with the Kansas Board of Nursing, very excited about the possibility. I see Charles is on here. Is there anything you want to say about the legal part, reviewing the agreement and stuff? Don't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted to give you a chance if there was anything you wanted to say.
No, I've gone through the agreement and I'm just going through the statement of work again, or the SAO as we call it. And so far there's nothing that gives me any big heartburn in it.
Thank you. So I think what we just need is a little bit more direction. We did kind of put together a motion, if that's how you want to go, is just kind of letting us go ahead and work with other state agencies to try to make this happen if this is what you want.
Is there any feedback from any board members? I think this would be a real satisfier to our licensees to have a warehouse, if you will, for their CEUs and simplify some of the tracking processes.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and it would help the investigative committee too when they're assigning CEs. We were excited about that part.
Carol or Jill, is there a motion you'd like to propose? See if there's a board member that would like to make it.
Yes.
Madam
I have one
President,
here.
I have one quick question. I know that you guys are looking at it from your end. Have any nurses had an opportunity to kind of view it from their end? And what are the kinks and quirks that might pop up? Just curious.
This is Carol, and no, we didn't push it out to any of our licensees or anything. We have reviewed feedback that other boards of nursing that use CE Broker have shared with us. It's been very positive. There's the three options for licensees. Again, if they want to go with CE Broker, if we sign with it, that doesn't mean that they have to use it because they have to set up an account and stuff with it. The free, I think, will be very helpful. It's not going to cost the nurse any money at all. And then there's two other levels that would have a cost associated with it. So that might not be appealing to some licensees, and that's okay. Because the more, as you pay the next tier, there's a little bit more that CE Broker has included for the licensee. So it's truly going to be up to the licensee whether they choose those tiers that have any cost associated with them. And again, it's kind of up to the licensee whether they create an account with CE Broker. Just because we sign with it doesn't mean every licensee has to use it if they don't want to. I will just tell you, I think it will be very popular because CNE is kind of hard for some of them to understand. It's hard for them to keep track of what they've done in a 2-year period. So I would think it would be very popular with them. I don't know if Chelsea wants to say anything because she works with CNE, but I think it's going to be popular.
This is Chelsea, Education Specialist. I would just agree with what Carol had said. I think one of the most common questions I get asked is, can you tell me how much CNE I have gotten so far? And that's something that the Board of Nursing doesn't track or maintain record of, especially because not all CNE is turned into us. And so I think that would be one of the greatest benefits to CE Broker is that they would be able to maintain record of that. Oftentimes their employer might be requesting that information, and if they have not kept track of that themselves, there's no way to provide them with that information. So that's probably the top benefit that I would see, as well as everything that Carol and Adrian have mentioned.
Great, thank you.
I don't know if that answered your question, Vita.
No, I'm in support of it. I just, always get inundated with trying new software and new platforms, and we always go, the perspective is to look at both sides, and so I just wanted to hear what you guys thought, what some of the thoughts were.
One of the things with CE Broker is you can add, like if you have ACLS or PALS and you haven't gone through, you can add that and it will keep track of that. So if you have different states, like I have a different state license along with my Kansas license, and it'll track how many hours I need for one state versus what I need for Kansas. And that's easy for me to go back in and see. And I can add that I've done elsewhere, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear from a licensee side, so thank you, that does.
And this is Carol again. I think maybe Adrian has something to add here. Do you, Adrian?
Yes, thank you. just by the nature of where the meeting I'm at right now, I'm in with somebody who has been a long-term customer of CE Broker, and also one that happened to be relatively new to CE Broker. And I caught them during break and asked them how their nurses and how they liked the solution. And both of them had great things to say about the company and the ease of use. One thing I like about the CE Broker solution is they've formatted their tools and whatnot for both the mobile and the desktop type experiences. So a lot of our population is starting to move towards more mobile because everybody has their app, so to speak, with them. And so that's nice to see that they've taken that proactive step to use the modern technology that a lot of the population are using. So if that brings any sort of comfort, it's both a long-term customer and a new one.
Thank you, Adrian. We had great discussion, so I appreciate that.
This is Patsy, board member. One of the things too, and like with the education work that I'm doing, all the faculty have to record that, and I list that, and I keep track of that so I can present that to anybody that would want to see that, whether that's board of trustees or my dean or Janelle, for a complete list of any kind of or accreditation that wants to see what kind of personal enrichment or professional development we've done. So it puts that together. It's a little easier to track that. Not that I would mandate faculty would have to do that, but it is an option to be able to record that and print off that report. That's pretty easy for us to do. So, yep.
Adri, did you have your hand up as well?
I did. I wanted to say that as someone who tracks CEUs, and you have to go, okay, did I do it here? Did I do it here? It would be a blessing not to have to sweat where I got them all done. They'd be where I could find them easier.
I appreciate the different perspectives, from Patsy as an instructor with managing other instructors. So I think there's benefit all the way around. Okay. Jill, is there a potential motion? What did you craft?
Yes. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to approve KSBN to enter into discussions with appropriate state agencies to seek and receive approval to implement the optional continuing nursing education CE/CME tracking service provided by CE Broker.
This is Adri. Go ahead, Gwen.
This is Gwen, and I move to do that.
Thank you, Gwen. We appreciate the motion. Is there a second?
Adri, board member, I second.
Thank you, Adri. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Adrian, we kind of jumped around a little bit. You want to talk about the strategic retreat that we're planning?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Happy to announce that we have lined up a location and a date, and we will be sending out a kind of save the date or what have you. This year's strategic plan retreat, we are using the, tagline or whatever you want to say, of envisioning transformational change. It's going to be held on February 22nd and 23rd in Wichita, Kansas. We've secured a location for the hotels at the Hotel at Old Town, which is where we've done previous strategic plans. However, because of the COVID conditions, their location that they traditionally had where we would walk across the foyer to the meeting rooms, unfortunately is not available to us. But we have secured a location to have the meeting itself at the Hutton building, which is some developers. They have a really nice conference room, and a past KSBN board member volunteered to let us use that for free. So that was much appreciated. And it's a great location, has all the AV equipment and whatnot that we need to do the meeting. We will have a guest facilitator, Mr. Jim Cleghorn, who served on the NCSBN Board of Directors, was the president for a while, and was the executive director of the Georgia Board of Nursing, was instrumental in helping us when we joined the Nurse Licensure Compact. They use similar operations as us. And by the nature of knowing him for a while, he has great facilitator skills. He actually went to school for some of this stuff. So he now works for CGFNS, that will be working in not as a capacity of CGFNS with us, but will be helping us with our organizational plans. And Carol, myself, and Juliana are working on agendas and whatnot. And the leadership team is starting to gather information so that we can compile that and have hopefully a great strategic plan for you. And so we'll be sending that out. We just didn't want to send it out right now so that we didn't confuse this board meeting with that, but we'll be sending that out here very shortly. So if you could block your dates off on the 22nd and 23rd, we'd love to have you join.
Madam President, this is Carol. If I could just add one thing to what Adrian said. If for some reason you're not going to be able to go, if you could let us know, because we've already made the hotel reservations for everyone. And so, you know, we don't want to pay for a hotel if you're not going to be able to be there. So once you get this, if you could kind of look at your schedule and stuff like that, hopefully everyone will be able to come and you can actually get to work together. That would be very nice.
This is Patsy, board member, and some of the previous discussions we had several months ago. Is this going to be an afternoon start on the 22nd? I live within driving distance of Wichita. I just wondered how many days I needed to block off, or what we were kind of, just an idea of what we were looking at, half a day, full day.
Yes, thank you, Patsy, for that. We were planning on starting on the 22nd at around noon, and we would go until about 4:30, and then we'll have some sort of dinner that we can have, and then we'll start first thing in the morning at about 8-ish and go till midday on that second day. Get you guys out of there as soon as possible.
Thanks for the info.
I really do hope everyone can come. I'm looking forward to, as Patsy said earlier, meeting folks that we haven't met before in person and really coming together as a team. So I'd encourage you to make every effort to be there. I think it'll be a very, very good meeting with very robust discussion.
So this is Melissa Orpeza. When do the room blocks start?
Do you mean
will it start on the 21st? So if I drive up the night before?
We currently have the 22nd blocked. So you would come in that day at some point and then depart on the 23rd. But if there's a need for additional, if you could send that to, I guess it would be Carol.
Okay.
The request. And then I'm pretty sure as long as we have a little bit of notice and we don't get real close to the date, that's usually relatively easy to get an extension if we need it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, jumping back down to our new business. Maybe we could do our executive session now. Does that sound all right? Go ahead, Adrian.
I'm sorry. You should have received an email with the connection information. Juliana's going to get off and start the meeting for us. But I will also send a text message to you guys with the information.
And how long do you think we typically take about 30 minutes for this, I believe?
Yes, I don't expect the part for me will probably be 5 minutes or less. And then you guys will have
30 minutes. We might be able to do it in 20 minutes. So I think, there's Charles. Charles, is that typically what you've experienced in the past for this session, is about 20 minutes?
I've not really been at very many executive sessions here at the nursing board, so I don't know. But if you need to pick a specific block of time, and then if you need time, you need to come back into the open meeting and then go back into the executive session for whatever additional minutes you need.
This is Patsy, board member. 30 minutes is probably a good choice, and then we'll have time. Coming back and forth and making another 10 minutes is kind of a lot of work for everybody, so I would suggest 30.
Okay, thank you, Patsy. So is there a motion?
Yes. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1? I move that the board recess into executive session for 30 minutes and reconvene at 11:50. The remote meeting will be reconvened by Zoom and YouTube as stated in the notice of the meeting that was sent to individuals who requested the notice and as published on the board's website, www.ksbn.kansas.gov. The justification is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The subject matter to be discussed in the executive session concerns an employee's performance evaluation. To aid the board in its discussion, Adrian Guerrero will join the executive session.
This is Adri, board member. I so move.
Thank you, Adri. Is there a second?
This is Rebecca Sander. I will second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Just as a reminder, please go ahead and log off of the Zoom or mute and turn off your cameras so that we are in closed session. And you dial into the number via the phone, not through Zoom.
Thank you, Adrian.
Hey, Charles, don't forget to stop your video. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have gathered back together here for the most part and resume our open meeting. So we have our annual board coma training left. And then we have our agenda to look at for March. Do we want to take a lunch break or do you want to plow through and finish up? What is the board's desire?
This is Patsy, board member. How long do we think the coma training will take?
This is Charles. It'll take probably 30 or 40 minutes.
Could we maybe just take a 10-minute break? Would people be opposed to that? Just a quicker break and then return to?
I think that sounds great. I appreciate the suggestion, Andrea. So how about we take a 10-minute break and resume at 12:05 and we'll have our board training. Okay, I've got 12:05. Looks like we're still missing a few people. We might just.
Hey, Juliana.
Yes.
We just might want to remind them where they can find the training handout that Charles is going to be covering. And I can do that if you want me to.
Yeah, that would, yeah, go for it, Carol.
Okay, just let me know when we get ready to start.
Okay. We're still missing a handful of people. We might give them just a minute more to join. Okay, I think most people have reconvened, so we will, Carol, if you want to tell us exactly where the handout is.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Carol. And Charles is going to be referring to a handout that you can actually find under board packet and then new business. And then it's called KSBN Training Handout December 2021. So you may want to follow through with that if you want to. Thanks.
Great. Charles, we'll hand it over to you.
All right, I hope you've all passed out toothpicks to keep your eyes open. It's a little dry. So this is just an annual refresher for board member training. It goes over Open Records Act, the Kansas Administrative Procedure Act, and things like that. So I'm just going to go through this document in order and just pick out the highlights of it. And hopefully, if you haven't yet, you will read the whole thing for yourselves. So this board and all the boards and commissions that Kansas has, they're considered creatures of statute, meaning a board's power is dependent upon its authorizing statutes, and therefore any exercise of authority claimed by a board must come from those statutes either explicitly or necessarily implied. A board may administer, implement, and enforce only those statutes. So basically only statutes in the Nurse Practice Act. And on the front of page 1, it gives the statute number where you can read through those. Also, you guys administer the Licensed Mental Health Technician Act. For licensing boards, the general purpose is to secure for the people of Kansas the services of competent, trustworthy practitioners and to protect the public against unprofessional, improper, unauthorized, or unqualified practitioners. It is not to promote the profession as a whole or to protect individual members of the profession. So in order to carry out the purpose, the board is granted delegated powers and functions which somewhat parallel 3 branches of government. There's the executive, judicial, and legislative. For a board, executive authority is an administrative function. In exercising this authority, the board is required to follow the Kansas Open Meetings Act, Kansas Open Records Act, to ensure that the public's business is conducted openly. So a board's judicial authority is an adjudicative function. This is when you're doing quasi-judicial activities, having hearings, meting out discipline for licensees, etc. A board's legislative authority is your authority to adopt regulations in order to implement or interpret legislation. So basically, when you promulgate regulations, those just flesh out and put meat on the bones of statutes. To increase your effectiveness as a board member, you need to bear in mind that less time, money, and energy and resources are expended in preventing a legislative post-audit review, a lawsuit, or an appeal of an administrative action than a complaint or something against the board responding to any of those unfortunate situations. I want to recommend to you to read your Enabling Act, Establishing the Board and its Practice Act, and reread the Practice Act, especially as statutes pertain to specific issues and matters. Reread them as necessary to familiarize yourself and understand the boundaries contained in them. Also read the regulations, especially regulations that pertain to specific matters as they come up. Be on the alert for any policies or internal procedures which are inconsistent with or conflict with statutes and regulations, or impact requirements for applicants or licensees. We've always done it that way is not a legal defense. Ensure that decisions are within the authority granted. If any doubt about the legality of an action, consult with the board's attorney. In this case would be me. I'm on page 3 now. Remember, the role of the board is to protect the public, not the licensee. Now I'm on the section on page 3 regarding conflicts of interest. Board members must make public and recuse themselves from any conflict of interest that exists to ensure the integrity of the board and all of its decisions. So the rest of page 3 talks about personal conflicts, anything that could personally benefit you or your career, personal gain, bias. Let's say there's a licensee being disciplined and you have a personal relationship with them. And there's examples there. Those are situations where there could be conflicts of interest. You might want to recuse yourself. On page 4, it talks about confidentiality. Protected information obtained in the capacity of a board member must remain confidential during and after board membership. Executive sessions during open meetings. The purpose of an executive session is to allow board members to discuss certain matters privately outside the public view. And there's statutory grounds for when that's allowed. Deliberations after a hearing. Discussions on a decision regarding a particular pending case are considered quasi-judicial functions. So the Kansas Open Records Act, or COMA, and the Kansas Administrative Procedures Act allow board members to deliberate in private. And those deliberations are meant to be confidential. The bottom of page 4 talks about ex parte communications. A board member may also inadvertently create an ex parte issue by contacting board staff or litigation counsel with questions about a pending hearing or application. Board staff and litigation counsel are aware of ex parte concerns, and they will refrain from discussing the particulars of a case with you. Decisions on applications and disciplinary matters must be made based only on the agency record or evidence presented during a hearing. So you can read more about ex parte communications and kind of the parameters of when you're allowed to talk about a certain case and with whom. The bottom of page 5 talks about professional activities. And just when you're doing things, I'm going to go to page 6 now. Talking about regulations. When adopted in accordance with the Rules and Regulations Filing Act, regulations have the force and effect of law, and they are legally enforceable. To be valid, a regulation must be within the statutory authority conferred upon the board, implement a specific statute, and otherwise pass the test for legality. And I think you guys, you're very well versed on regulations, and you don't seem to need very much coaching on how to draft regs and promulgate them. So I'm pretty impressed actually compared to other boards. But page 6 and 7 and the top of page 8 talks about regulations and the process and procedure for how those work. The next thing I'm going to talk about is on the bottom of page 8. It's the Tort Claims Act. The Kansas Tort Claims Act generally governs the liability of the state of Kansas and its agencies and employees. The basic rule of the act is vicarious liability for any actionably wrongful act or omissions of government employees within the course and scope of their employment, subject to affirmative grants of immunity that may exist on a case-by-case basis. So, so this is kind of important. So I'm just going to read a lot of this because it pertains to you personally and also to your personal bank accounts, let's say. If you're sued for an act that occurred within the scope of your duties as a board member, you're entitled to have the Attorney General's office defend you at no cost. To obtain representation by the Attorney General's office, you must submit a written request to the Attorney General within 15 days of service of process. And when you do that, you must include a copy of the petition and the summons. You also must cooperate in your defense. The state may choose not to defend you if you acted with actual fraud or malice or failed to make a timely request for representation. There's a 2-year statute of limitations that typically applies to lawsuits governed by the Tort Claims Act. Former board members are covered employees under the Act for acts and omissions of their former appointment period with the board, which were within the course and scope of their duties. The general rule is the state will pay for any judgment rendered against you unless the judgment is for an act or omission that occurred outside the scope of your duties as a board member, you failed to cooperate in your defense, or you acted with actual fraud or malice. So these are the things to remember if you're sued. Number 1, file a timely written request with the Deputy of Civil Litigation for representation by the Attorney General's office and attach a copy of the petition and the summons. And this is at the top of page 9. Do not sign anything and do not say anything about the case. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay, moving ahead then, let's talk about the Kansas Open Meetings Act, or COMA. I'm on page 9. COMA allows the public to observe governmental entities making decisions. Meetings shall be open to the public because a representative government is dependent upon an informed electorate. And the statutes about that are listed here. It's KSA 75-4317. COMA applies to all meetings for the conduct of the affairs of and the transaction of business of all legislative and administrative bodies and agencies of the state. COMA does not apply to an otherwise covered entity when lawfully authorized to exercise quasi-judicial functions when deliberating matters related to a decision involving a quasi-judicial function. So in your case, that would be when you're deliberating about licensee discipline. A meeting is defined as any gathering or assembly in person through the use of telephone, any other medium for interactive communication by a majority of the membership of an agency or public body subject to the act for the purpose of discussing the business or affairs of the public body or agency. It's also important to remember the name of the gathering is irrelevant. So work sessions or retreats are also subject to coma. So when you're at activities like that, you just need to remember, don't talk about board business. You can talk about the weather or personal things or other things, but you should avoid discussing actual board business when you're at those activities. That also, if you go out of town and you're going to conferences and seminars, and even when you're traveling, if there's a majority of you in a group, same thing applies. The presiding officer has no duty to provide notice of the meeting, but the duty may be delegated to another person. I'm sorry, I misread that. The presiding officer has the duty to provide notice, but they may delegate it. The notice must provide a date, time, location where the body will meet to the person requesting notice at a reasonable time before a meeting. So there's no set number of days that you have to give a notice. It just means a reasonable time, and that can be even as little as 24 hours. COMA does not require a board to create an agenda, but if one exists, it must be made available to everyone. An agenda does not have to be mailed out in advance of the meeting. The public does not have the right to speak, but only to listen and observe an open meeting. And then later on page 10, it talks about the meeting minutes. And it talks about executive sessions. I'll just mention a little bit about the executive sessions. There's some statutory requirements for an executive session, and those are: a formal motion must be made, seconded, and carried. The motion for executive session must contain a statement describing the subjects to discuss without revealing any confidential information. The justification, and those are listed in statutes for closing the meeting, and usually there's only two. It's for talking to your attorney and getting legal advice, and for discussing like employment issues for non-elected personnel. And also, the complete motion must be recorded in the minutes and permanently retained by the board. And as a practical matter, I like to look at those a day or two before you make those, just to make sure all the elements required in the written motion are there. Discussions in the executive session are limited to those subjects stated in the motion. The two most common justifications, like I said, are the board's going to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel or consultation with the board's attorney. In the middle of page 11, it talks about the most common complaints raised by the public about executive sessions. So those are improper motions to have the executive session. They changed and started talking about different subject matter other than that was in the written motion. The inclusion of non-board members in the session or the executive session was extended without reconvening a meeting and making another motion to extend. Failure to return to the meeting at the stated time and place when the executive session ends. Revealing information that was discussed in the executive session. Serial communications, and failure to give notice of meetings. There's serial communications are things like someone might send an email and then they'll send it to 3 or 4 people or a majority of the board members, and they'll be discussing the meeting in an email, or they'll daisy chain it and one will talk to one and then another and another. And that can also count as a coma violation. So a lot of city councils get in trouble with that a lot because they'll talk about how they're going to vote on something and they'll call each other or email. And they've been disciplined for that. So when you have a COMA complaint, the burden of proof lies with the board to sustain its action and to prove that its action was justifiable. So just remember that. The rest of page 11 and 12 just talks about the discipline that can be applied to the board. There can be civil penalties of up to $250 per each violation, or $500 for each violation. So that would be $500 for each of you. And the rest of page 12 just goes over that. Does anyone have any questions about that? Is everyone still awake? That's about as exciting for me as it is for you. The next is the Kansas Open Records Act. This act requires the board to have its records open for inspection for any person unless otherwise provided. You should always assume that everything you write, including electronically or record, that has to do with board activities will be available to the public. So that includes anything you email on your work account and also your texts on your business phone. Like if you're texting each other on your work phone during a meeting, that's all open record. Just remember that. A public record includes only records in existence at the time of a request, and the board is not required to create a record in order to fulfill a request. A public record does not include records that are owned by a private person or entity or are not related to functions, activities, programs, or operations funded by public funds. So you have your personal phone at work, as long as you're not doing business on it from the nursing board, it's private and that's not discoverable. So under the CORA, every board must, I'm at the bottom of page 13, appoint a Freedom of Information officer who handles the CORA requests, display, distribute, and otherwise make available a brochure describing a requester's rights and the agency's responsibilities and the procedures for inspecting or obtaining copies of public records, and include the name and title of the records custodian, the fees, and the office hours for making requests. In Kansas, any person can make a request for public records. The person need not be a resident or provide a reason for the request. The board may require the request to be in writing. And regarding your place of business, unless closed by law, the board cannot deny a person the right to review its public records. Okay, this part is important here. When someone makes a CORA request, the request must be acted upon as soon as possible, but not later than the end of the third business day following the date of the request was received by the board. 3 responses are acceptable. Number 1, the record is provided. You just give them what they asked for. Number 2, the request is under review and the records will be coming as much as prohibited or permitted. And number 3, the request is denied with a detailed explanation for the denial. So typically the boards have what they call a 3-day letter. So when you get a request that day or the next day, you send them the 3-day letter, and we have a template for that has kind of this statutorily required information that's on it to give them, and then that satisfies the 3-day requirement. There's stiff monetary penalties for if you miss the 3-day deadline. On the middle of page 14, the board may recover actual costs that it costs to provide the requested records. The costs include staff time to retrieve and review the records, redact information from a record, copy the record, and mail the copies to the requester. The fees may be estimated and collected before the records are provided. And then at the bottom of page 14, it talks about the what happens if you violate the CORA. Page 15 is just also talking about violations and the procedure for what happens. There can be, again, the $250 and $500 penalties for each violation. Any questions on the CORA? If you want to have extra training on that, there's someone in our office named Philip Michael. He gives detailed CORA COMA training to agencies. If you ever want to have that, you can request that from him. The last thing on the list here is the Kansas Administrative Procedure Act, or CAPA. So the board's investigations and conducting business and details like that, some things are covered by COMA, some things are covered by CAPA, and those are mutually exclusive. The key conclusion in this opinion is that when a licensing board statutes provide that the Kansas CAPA applies to certain decisions, the board shall follow CAPA, not the open meetings law, when making those decisions. The CAPA sets out a procedure to follow when the board is deciding what to do in cases involving individual licensees, much like the procedure that is followed in court cases. When the CAPA applies, none of the stages in a particular disciplinary case has to be open to the public observation other than the hearing. For disciplinary cases, that means that prior to a reasonable grounds determination, the investigative committee must meet under the COMA to review and determine pending cases. However, the investigative committee may deliberate in private if it is engaged in quasi-judicial deliberations. That's the bottom of page 16. In the middle of page 17, it says, the public does not need to be notified when the investigative committee meets to decide matters under the CAPA, and the board does not need to make a vote in public for decisions made under the CAPA. Under CAPA, the board's decision is effective when it issues the license or an order. Board staff and the board's attorney can be present during the CAPA discussions to make sure board members have the information they need. And then on the middle of page 17, and this is the last part I'm going to read. There are some board activities that are not covered by the CAPA, and these must be acted on in an open meeting. These include approving board minutes, discussions and votes to approve or amend regulations or guidance documents, delegating authority to a board member or to the executive director to make a particular action, receiving agency updates regarding the budget, legislation, complaints, investigations, committee statistics, education, and the executive director's report. Decisions whether to renew contracts or to change the way contracted activities are provided, and policy decisions affecting the way the board operates internally. And that's the end of the review. Does anyone have any questions? All right, so if you do later, read through this document, and if that doesn't answer your questions, feel free to call me.
Charles, we really appreciate it. It may not be riveting information, but it certainly can keep us legal and financially safe. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We want to keep you inside the fence and to make sure you're not exposed personally.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I think that, we need to talk about the agenda for March of 2022.
Madam President, this is Carol. And actually, we need to put on there the approval of the minutes for the special board meeting in November. We kind of forgot to get those on here, and I realized that kind of after the fact. So that will go on there for March.
That sounds great. Okay. Anything else that we're aware of now? Okay, well, I really appreciate everyone's attendance. I'm looking forward to seeing you in February. I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday season. I hope you get some time with your families. And I appreciate you all being here and the service you provide to the state. So thank you very much. Thank you to our agency and all the work that you all have done. I hope you all get some time as well with your families. Have a very Merry Christmas.
Everybody stay safe out there because the high winds have hit Western Kansas and they're losing power and everything. So that's
And
what's moving.
I was gonna say I'm in
east.
Denver and it's definitely coming your way.
Yeah, that's why you lost one board member here.
Yeah.
Is lost power. Yeah. Okay, so stay safe.
Thank you.